Yeah, man, it was terrible. I knew I was madly in love with my wife. The minute I saw her, it was
Right.
kind of love at first sight. But getting to the altar was so tough.
Jeff Bridges has always carried a certain mystery about him. With a career spanning more than 6 decades, he has charmed audiences with his unforgettable performances in films like The Big Lebowski, Tron, and Crazy Heart. To many, he has seemed almost untouchable, a man who embodies both the Hollywood dream and a down-to-earth humility that made him stand apart from his peers. While other stars were consumed by scandals or fame, Bridges cultivated an image of calm, wisdom, and quiet strength. Fans admired him not just as an actor, but as a symbol of resilience and authenticity in an industry often accused of being shallow and unforgiving. But behind the easygoing grin and laid-back personality, there were whispers, suspicions that Jeff had endured struggles he rarely spoke about. Stories circulated of health battles, personal demons, and emotional truths that even his most loyal fans could only guess at. For years, Bridges remained silent, preferring to let his work speak louder than his words. Now, at 75, the actor has finally broken that silence, revealing the reality behind the legend. And what he admitted confirms exactly what many had long suspected, though few ever dared to say aloud. From the moment Jeff Bridges stepped onto a film set, it was clear he was destined for greatness. Born into a family that breathed Hollywood, with actor Lloyd Bridges as his father and brother Beau Bridges already carving his own path, Jeff might have seemed like just another beneficiary of nepotism. Yet it became evident early on that Jeff wasn't simply riding on a family name. He had genuine talent, charisma, and a natural ability to connect with audiences in a way few others could. His breakout role in The Last Picture Show, 1971, earned him an Academy Award nomination at just 22 years old. Critics hailed him as one of the brightest young stars of his generation, comparing him to acting legends like James Dean and Paul Newman. What set Jeff apart was his ability to disappear into roles. He wasn't flashy or desperate for attention. He let subtlety and authenticity drive his performances. This grounded approach became his trademark, and it's why audiences often described him as real, a rare quality in Hollywood. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Jeff cemented his reputation as a versatile actor. He seamlessly moved from dramas like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot to more experimental projects like Tron, 1982. By the time Starman, 1984, came along, audiences were not just watching an actor, they were watching a man who could inject humanity into even the most unusual roles. His portrayal of an alien trying to understand human emotions struck a chord with fans and critics alike, earning him yet another Oscar nomination. But fame never seemed to change Jeff Bridges. Unlike many of his contemporaries who indulged in Hollywood excess, Bridges retained his easygoing demeanor, famously describing himself as a laid-back dude who just likes to play music and paint when I'm not acting. Friends and co-stars often spoke of his kindness and warmth. Directors admired his professionalism, while fans saw him as approachable, almost as if he were someone you could sit down and share a beer with. This image of the relatable star grew stronger in the 1990s, culminating in his most iconic role, the dude in The Big Lebowski, 1998. At first, the film was a box office disappointment, but over time it became a cultural phenomenon, with Bridges' laid-back stoner philosopher persona immortalized in film history. Ironically, the dude wasn't too far from Bridges himself, relaxed, humorous, and content with life's simple pleasures. Fans began to see him less as just a Hollywood actor and more as a symbol of authenticity in a world obsessed with glamour. Yet even as he reached new heights of fame, rumors began to surface. Whispers circulated about Jeff struggling with personal challenges, health concerns, and a quiet battle that he never fully shared with the public. To many, it seemed impossible that the ever-smiling Bridges could be hiding pain beneath the surface. But those who knew him best suggested that the actor's calm exterior sometimes masked a life more complicated than fans realized. For decades, Jeff brushed aside the speculation, choosing to remain private about anything beyond his craft. He built a career that was both successful and enduring, but behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. Now, at 75, Jeff Bridges has finally admitted that some of those long-standing suspicions weren't unfounded. And as his revelations come to light, they paint a portrait of a man who, despite all the awards and accolades, is still deeply human, fragile, resilient, and unafraid to finally speak the truth. For decades, Jeff Bridges projected the image of a man who had it all: a flourishing Hollywood career, a loving marriage to his wife, Susan Geston, and a family life that seemed remarkably stable in an industry notorious for broken relationships. He was one of the rare actors who managed to keep his personal life grounded while achieving international fame. To the public, he was the picture of balance, an actor who had found peace in an otherwise chaotic world. Yet behind the curtain, there were struggles that few truly understood. The first signs of his private battles surfaced in hushed Hollywood. Conversations during the late 1990s and early 2000s. While The Big Lebowski had redefined his career and elevated him to cult icon status, the film's success also came at a time when Bridges began facing health challenges. He quietly endured bouts of stress, fatigue, and periods of self-doubt that contrasted sharply with his public persona. But in typical Bridges fashion, he kept these struggles to himself, never wanting to burden others or tarnish the positive image fans held of him. One of the most heartbreaking truths that Jeff has only recently admitted was the toll his career took on his physical and emotional well-being. Long hours on set, constant travel, and the pressure to maintain his reputation wore him down. Unlike many actors who thrive on the chaos of Hollywood, Jeff often longed for simplicity. Moments of quiet, painting in his studio, strumming his guitar, or spending time with his daughters. But the demands of stardom rarely allowed him the freedom to fully retreat. His battle became more public in 2020 when he revealed his lymphoma diagnosis. The announcement shocked fans, many of whom had always seen him as a symbol of strength and resilience. Jeff approached the news with his characteristic humility, writing in a statement, "As the dude would say, new SOB has come to light." While the remark reflected his humor, it masked the seriousness of the fight ahead. He endured grueling treatments, losing weight and strength, and for the first time, fans began to see the vulnerability he had kept hidden for so long. To make matters worse, while undergoing chemotherapy, Jeff contracted COVID-19, which nearly claimed his life. The illness left him in intensive care for weeks, struggling to breathe and clinging to survival. Later, Jeff admitted that there were moments when he wasn't sure he would make it through. The experience profoundly changed him, forcing him to confront his mortality in a way he had never done before. Even so, Jeff's silence about his deeper emotional struggles extended far beyond his recent health crisis. For years, he avoided addressing the darker aspects of his life: anxiety, fear, and the immense pressure of being a Bridges in Hollywood. He was raised in a family that valued resilience and professionalism, and Jeff often felt he had to uphold that legacy by staying strong no matter what. Yet in truth, he sometimes felt trapped by the very image that fans adored. Now, as he reflects at 75, Jeff Bridges admits that his silence came at a cost. He acknowledges that by hiding his pain, he reinforced the myth that celebrities live untouched by hardship. In reality, his life was filled with the same battles faced by millions: illness, fear, and the struggle to keep moving forward when the odds seem stacked against you. By finally speaking out, Jeff is not only revealing the truth about himself, he's offering a lesson in vulnerability, reminding the world that even its brightest stars are human after all. When Jeff Bridges announced his cancer diagnosis, the world collectively held its breath. For decades, audiences had watched him embody strength, resilience, and a unique calmness that seemed to make him untouchable. But suddenly, the man fans viewed as Hollywood's most grounded actor was fighting for his life. This revelation wasn't just a piece of celebrity news, it was a turning point in the way people understood who Jeff Bridges really was. The treatments were brutal. Chemotherapy drained him of energy, stripped him of his vitality, and forced him into a state of dependence that was foreign to a man so used to self-reliance. He described the experience as a real stripping away of everything you thought you could count on. For the first time, Bridges had to lean completely on others, his family, his doctors, and the unwavering support of his wife, Susan, who stayed by his side through every painful step. Their marriage, already considered one of Hollywood's strongest, became the bedrock of his survival. As if battling lymphoma weren't enough, the COVID-19 infection that struck during his treatments nearly ended his life. Jeff later admitted that there was a moment when he was ready to let go, when the exhaustion was so overwhelming that he questioned whether it was worth continuing. But something inside him, perhaps his love for his family or his unshakable desire to live authentically, pulled him back from the edge. "I was ready to go," he confessed in an interview, "but love is what kept me here." That near-death experience changed Jeff Bridges in profound ways. He began to see life not as a series of accomplishments or performances, but as fragile, fleeting moments to be cherished. He started to talk openly about gratitude, something he once kept private. Each sunrise, each conversation with his daughters, each laugh shared with his grandchildren became treasures. What fans suspected for years, that Bridges carried a quiet wisdom beneath his laid-back demeanor, was finally confirmed through his own words. The battle also altered his relationship with Hollywood. While Bridges had always been selective about his roles, the illness sharpened his sense of purpose. He no longer wanted to take on projects just for the sake of staying visible. Instead, he became committed to choosing work that resonated deeply with his values and brought him joy. His return to acting in the television series The Old Man was both a professional triumph and a personal victory. It symbolized his resilience and his refusal to let illness define his legacy. But perhaps the most powerful transformation was internal. Jeff Bridges became more open about discussing fear, vulnerability, and the fragility of human life. He admitted that for years he avoided these conversations because he didn't want to be seen as weak. Now he embraces them as a vital part of his truth. Fans who admired him for his roles now admired him for his honesty, for showing that even Hollywood legends face the same uncertainties as everyone else. At 75, Bridges' confrontation with mortality has become less about illness and more about perspective. He is no longer the untouchable star people once assumed him to be. He is something greater, a man unafraid to show the scars of survival, using his story not to inspire pity, but to share strength. As Jeff Bridges steps into his mid-70s, his voice carries a different weight than it once did. No longer just the celebrated actor who brought audiences unforgettable characters like the Dude or the soulful country singer in Crazy Heart, he now speaks as a man who has lived through the full spectrum of human experience: triumph, tragedy, love, loss, and survival. What he has finally admitted is not only about his health battles, but also about the deeper truths that defined his life when the cameras stopped rolling. For years, fans suspected that Jeff's calm, centered presence came from something beyond Hollywood. They saw it in his interviews, in the way he avoided scandal, and in his devotion to his family. Now, Bridges has confirmed those suspicions. His resilience wasn't born of fame or fortune. It came from grounding himself in love, art, and a spiritual understanding of life's impermanence. At 75, he openly acknowledges that the true measure of his success isn't in the awards he's won, but in the relationships he's nurtured and the lessons he's learned. One of those lessons is vulnerability. Bridges has revealed that for decades he believed he had to maintain a mask of strength, not just for Hollywood, but for his loved ones. Yet his cancer diagnosis and brush with death stripped away that illusion. "When you're that close to the edge," he admitted, "you realize that being open about your fears doesn't make you weak, it makes you human." This truth resonated deeply with fans who had long admired his authenticity. The man who once embodied the Dude's carefree wisdom was now showing the world what it truly meant to face life with courage. His honesty has also changed how people view his career. Roles that once seemed like entertainment now appear prophetic. When fans revisit The Big Lebowski, they see not just a cult classic, but a reflection of Bridges' philosophy of acceptance. When they watch Crazy Heart, they recognize echoes of his own struggles with exhaustion, identity, and resilience. These performances, once celebrated for their artistry, now feel like windows into a man who was always more complex than he let on. Beyond Hollywood, Bridges has leaned into his creative passions, painting, music, and philanthropy. He has used his platform to advocate for causes close to his heart, from ending childhood hunger to raising awareness about healthcare. His voice now extends far beyond the silver screen, reminding people that even in the face of immense personal hardship, one can continue to give, inspire, and uplift. Perhaps most striking is how Jeff Bridges has redefined what it means to age in Hollywood. At 75, in a culture that often glorifies youth, he stands as a reminder that wisdom, vulnerability, and grace are timeless qualities. By finally admitting the struggles he once kept hidden, he has allowed fans to see him not just as a movie star, but as a fellow human being navigating the same fragility of life we all face. In the end, what Jeff Bridges has shared is both heartbreaking and inspiring. He confirmed the suspicions many had long held, that beneath the easygoing smile and effortless charm was a man who endured battles far heavier than the world ever realized. Yet his story is not one of defeat but of resilience. He has turned pain into perspective, silence into honesty, and vulnerability into strength. As the credits roll on his extraordinary life and career, Jeff Bridges leaves us with a final message, that authenticity, love, and truth will always outshine fame. And in revealing what we all suspected, he has given fans one last gift, the courage to embrace their own humanity, just as he has embraced his.